Hello and welcome to Unapologetic, the UK podcast on politics, news and stuff from a right of centre viewpoint. And it's three of us tonight. We've got Sam.
Hi.
Jonathan.
Hello.
And I'm Steve. And it's been a little while, about a week since we last podcasted because we've all been busy and we've had things going on. But hopefully we can get back to a regular podcast now. And our first item on the agenda is Jeremy Corbyn. It's often Jeremy Corbyn number one, but that's what we've got today. Let me read it to you. So, Jeremy Corbyn has sparked anger after he criticised the killing of Islamic State warlord Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, it's a hard one to say, earlier today. Speaking on the second day of his election campaign trail, Mr Corbyn said the terrorists should have been arrested instead. The warlord, said to be the world's number one terrorist leader by Donald Trump, was killed last month in a US operation focused on northwest Syria. In an interview with LBC, Mr Corbyn said, if it would have been impossible to arrest him, I don't know the details of the circumstance at the time, but that would have been preferable. I've seen various statements put out by the US about it. Surely that would have been the right thing to do. Al-Baghdadi has been accused of taking at least 3 US civilians hostage and murdering them. According to the White House, the ISIS leader is responsible for more than 300 public beheadings and the killing of thousands of captured prisoners of war. So, who are you with on this one? Are you with Jeremy Corbyn or Trump, Sam?
Well, I think it's a bit more complicated than that, because I think that the point Corbyn's probably making is that it's not like an eye for an eye. We don't have a policy of an eye for an eye, and so just because he's killed people doesn't mean we should kill him. However, I don't think just saying, oh, we should arrest him, and you know, it's making it out like he's some innocent guy. He's not. He's a horrible terrorist. And I think we need to be honest about that. And also, what kind of risk would you be putting soldiers at to try and send them in to arrest a man who's going to blow himself up?
Well, he ran away, didn't he? He ran away into the cave with bombs strapped to himself and tried to use kids to shield himself.
Exactly. And so, I don't feel sorry for the man at all.
What do you think, Jonathan?
I have difficulty with the basic, a bit of what Sam's saying. If you're dealing with terrorism, if you have an opportunity to kill them, and leave it at that. The idea of arresting people, yes, it's all very nice, but what then? You just imprison them for life?
Yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, I'm just saying it's sort of one side of the argument. It's not an argument I particularly necessarily always support, but I just think that's probably the argument he would make, that it's not just an eye for an eye.
The trouble is, we've all seen these ISIS guys. We've all seen, well, a lot of people have seen the viral videos of them putting prisoners in cages and setting them on fire, of publicly beheading them, like just cutting their heads off, hundreds of people, of executing the prisoners of war that they've captured. I mean, this is their leader. This is the guy who the buck stops with, who is responsible for all of that. If ever there was somebody the world is better off without, it's him, isn't it?
Well, yeah, and I think part of the problem is that it's not just about the fact that, you know, if any other person had said about the arresting, that people might have taken it a bit more fairly, but it's the fact that Corbyn said it, because this is not the first time that he's just completely sympathised with terrorists. He seems to just say that you can kill whatever people you like and be a complete terrorist madman, and that's okay. He'll just, you know, shake your hand and welcome you into Downing Street.
Yeah, I think one of the MPs, I forget who it was, but somebody said in response, oh yeah, we should have just walked up to him and said, we're taking you to the police station, sir. I mean, it's just ludicrous, isn't it?
It is. I mean, had the Allies had the opportunity of taking Hitler out part of the way through the war, should they have done so? According to Jeremy Corbyn, no, they should have waited till he could be arrested. Well, I mean, this is just nonsense.
I mean, Corbyn is making the case about the rule of law and how we've got to try and be the way we'd like the world to be, but war is different, isn't it? I mean, with war, when a guy's prepared to strap bombs to himself and put kids around himself, well, he's responsible for masses of murders and rapes and tortures. I mean, you know, the army, it's not like they went in there and said, you know, all we're going to do is just quickly execute him. What they did is chased him through, but it became a gunfight and they decided not to risk themselves.
Yeah, but they don't see it like that, do they, Labour? I mean, some of their heroes killed thousands of people, you know. When you look at Stalin, Marx, all of them starved people, killed people. Marx,
I don't think personally killed anyone, but Stalin's certainly responsible for many, many, many deaths. Probably the greatest genocides, I would say, of the world.
So, I mean, certainly Stalin's kill rate exceeded Hitler's, which, you know, it takes some doing.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't. I'm wrong in saying genocide, actually, because there wasn't a specific race that Stalin was trying to exterminate. It just seemed to be anyone who didn't agree with him.
Other than the Cossacks, other than the Kulaks.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, so genocide. Yeah. I mean, he was certainly killed more people, I believe, than Hitler did.
Yes.
Jonathan literally just said that about 2 minutes ago.
I know. Well, the point is that they are in denial, aren't they? There are, as you say, many leftists who just seem to continue supporting these crazy people of the past.
Well, what about the crazy people of today? I mean, we've had the president of Chile who's sort of fled because his people want to kill him. One of these sort of smart aleck left-wing presidents who eventually comes to a sticky end. Another heading that way is Venezuela, where most of the people are starving as a result of the imbecile that's in charge of them, who happens to be, very much admired by
the left. Yeah,
the
absolutely.
Left.
They're eating, not only are they eating their pets, they're eating zoo animals. So they were, at least last year.
Really?
Yeah, it made the news. There were people so hungry they were eating their pets, and they actually killed and ate some of the zoo animals. So that's how grim it got over there as a result of left-wing policies.
I bet holidays in Venezuela are real cheap though.
Yeah, but when you get there's nothing to eat, so you just starve.
Oh, there's zoo animals. Fancy trying a bit of
there,
tiger?
Yeah.
They're probably so desperate to get your pounds when you walk into there, you probably can get all the food. You'll be like some rich god if you walked into Venezuela, wouldn't you?
In all seriousness, I think it's one of those places the government advises you not to go. Anyway, let's move on, because we've got another interesting story today about the Royal Mail. So, Royal Mail wins High Court injunction to stop postal strike. And this is the story. The Royal Mail has won a High Court injunction preventing the first national postal strike in a decade, which it said could have disrupted postal voting in the general election. The Communication Workers Union said it would appeal against the injunction after it was granted in London's High Court on Wednesday. Members of the CWU overwhelmingly backed industrial action in a dispute over job security and employment terms and conditions. Last month, 97% of the vote voted in favour of action on a turnout of almost 76%. However, Royal Mail successfully argued that there were irregularities in the ballot. So, irregularities in the ballot, what does that mean? Sam?
Well, from what I've been reading, that a lot of the sort of union stewards and reps were approaching staff, demanding they open the ballot and demanding they fill it in and take photos of their yes voting before sending it back. So, obviously, it
Sounds
was
irregular.
a very orchestrated attack by the union.
It says here the High Court judge, Mr Justice Swift, said the CWU's actions included encouraging members to vote at work amounted to improper interference with the ballot on strike action. Well, left-wing organisations doing irregularities in voting. Who would have thought, Jonathan?
It's pretty amazing, isn't it? But the interesting aspect of this is people sort of moan about, the Russians are interfering with our elections, and yet one of our own unions, albeit a very left-wing union, and one I believe that gives money to the Labour Party, decides that it's going to interfere with a general election by stopping everybody who's a postal voter from voting.
Man, it sounds like they're just bullying members, doesn't it? It sounds like they're standing there and watching over them and bullying them into doing what they want them to do.
Well, that's very much how I remember the unions when I worked in engineering. I mean, that is who they were, but in some cases I don't think they've reformed terribly much.
Well, when it's a blind ballot, of course they can't, because in the end the secrecy of who you vote for protects you. But if there is no secrecy, if they're standing over you while you vote, then that's different, isn't it? I mean, certainly a depressing state of affairs, but it's good that the High Court ruled against it, and of course there's another strike story today. And this one's about McDonald's, the McStrike they're calling it. McDonald's said it already offers... Oh, I'm reading the wrong bit there. So the Hard Left Union wants McDonald's staff to go on strike to demand higher wages than police and nurses. A Jeremy Corbyn-backed trade union is trying to get McDonald's workers to go on strike next month to demand higher wages than police and nurses. The Hard Left Bakers Union announced a McStrike for November the 12th with a list of demands for McDonald's 130,000 workers. It is calling for £15 an hour pay. That's nearly double what most McDonald's workers currently earn. It would mean McDonald's workers getting paid £3.70 more per hour than the average starting salary for police officers. And it would mean their pay on nearly double the starting salary for nurses. Most McDonald's staff currently get paid around £8 per hour. And so they've encouraged them to go out on strike, and that's their demands. It's a reasonable list, do you think, Sam?
Well, I think this is similar to the post office one in the sense that people, when they demand these actions, they never think about the consequences and where it leads. So with the Royal Mail, obviously there's so many other delivery companies now nipping at their heels, and there has been for a while. So they've got so much competition. Can they afford to be, paying higher wages and having staff going on strike? Because they'll just maybe be outsourced by a company that doesn't have wages going on strike. And similarly for McDonald's, I mean, they're moving towards automation. they've got a lot of these touchscreen now when you go in. If staff become too expensive to employ, they'll just move towards more automation, and staff will have no job at all. And having no job is not good, is it?
No, that's true. I mean, it's interesting. I was reading some of the comments at the end of some of the newspaper articles, and people were saying things like, "Look, if you don't want to be paid that amount, then don't sign a contract and start working there. But don't start working there and then demand something different to the contract you signed."
I found a comment I saw online which really annoyed me. Is this guy was saying, if you can't afford to pay someone a fair wage, you're not a viable business. And I just thought, what a stupid comment, because who defines what a fair wage is?
You could then set what you consider to be a fair wage at any level and make every company a valid company. It's such a nonsense. What do you think, Jonathan?
Well, the idea of paying McDonald workers over 30 grand a year, I would be tempted to go and flip burgers myself. But the other, interesting aspect of this, why just McDonald's? Burger King?
Well, maybe they already pay a bit higher. Well, I don't think they pay £15 an hour. But I have noticed that Burger King burgers are more expensive than McDonald's, so maybe that's a consequence of
they're actually
slightly
better
higher
as
pay.
well, I think.
Oh, don't get into the Burger King McDonald's war.
What is better, a Whopper, double Whopper? We should ask them, watchers or listeners, what is better, a double Whopper with cheese from Burger King or a Big Mac?
Don't get me wrong. I love McDonald's because effectively they provide public toilets.
Oh, Jonathan.
And, you can wander into any McDonald's and use the loos and go out again, and you don't need to buy their burgers to do that. So it's.
But just to be clear, they're calling for £600 a week for people to flip burgers and serve burgers. Now, don't get me wrong, I love a burger, and I think McDonald's workers are brilliant, and fair play to them. They work all hours, they work hard, it's a good business. But £600 a week, it's just not realistic, is it? I mean, the only thing that will do is either make McDonald's go for more automation and cut their staff, or make them increase the price of their burgers, which is what everybody is paying for. So there's no benefit to the higher wage. And that's always the way, isn't it, with these demands for higher wages and minimum wages, and what happens with all of them is that they have to be paid for somehow, and that pay is normally by cutting jobs, increasing automation, or increasing prices.
And it's worse than that, because it's not only that if you did increase McDonald's wages, everyone else would have to increase too, so you'd have to increase the wages for nurses and police officers, and suddenly everyone's being paid a massive amount more.
What makes me laugh is when people say, they say things like, well, McDonald's are already earning a fortune, they earn a huge profits, and so that must mean there's space for them to do this, to pay more and not increase the prices. But that's not good economics, because if they were earning a huge profit, then there would be space for someone to come into the market, undercut them, and put them out of business. The fact that there was lots of competition and that's the price they're charging indicates, through economic law, that the price they're charging must be reasonable, because otherwise someone will come in and steal their business. That's what happens if you charge too much money for something. What do you think, Jonathan? Right or wrong?
No, absolutely correct. I mean, at the end of the day, if another business is selling something cheaper or better, you will get out of business.
That's right. That's what happens. If you're the argument that one company is making a fortune and so they should be able to afford this doesn't stand up to economic rules. But you can't agree with me on anything, Jonathan, because otherwise the podcast's pointless.
Well, true. Yeah. The other thing that's interesting about this is almost certainly this is a London-centric view of things, where a McDonald's wages in London probably are relatively low. In other parts of the country, they're what people are getting by on.
Yeah, I mean, the prices are out of control in London, but I don't think McDonald's charge particularly more for their burgers in London than elsewhere, do they?
No, that's the point.
I think they do. They do tend to.
I've not noticed that. I don't know.
In the service stations, it's always more expensive, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, that's
true.
That's traditional service station rip-off. I mean, it's...
well, I think it's just that the service stations charge them a lot for the franchise.
I remember when you used to be able to get the double cheeseburger for 99p, and that's $1.49 now. It might even be $1.79. That is inflation, isn't it?
That is probably what you'd call that, yes. Hang on, I just want to tell you what McDonald's response is. So McDonald's said it already offers a 40-hour guaranteed contract. Already offers it. But 9 out of 10 of its 130,000 staff chose to remain on the flexible contract because they prefer it. So it's more left demanding things nobody wants, isn't it? Oh, we're going to demand something, put you out of a job, and you didn't even want us to in the first place.
What I want to know is, and now McDonald's has all these choices, right? You can have all the different meals, they've got wraps and all of that. When you guys were kids, because obviously you're different in age, they must have only had like 4 different burgers. That was a sad time.
Yeah, they didn't have all the wraps and stuff that I remember. But there was quite a lot of different
Do you
things to
remember
have.
that?
I mean, there was chicken burgers. There was no. I don't think I had nuggets when I was a kid.
I think I was about 30 before I went into my first McDonald's restaurant and wasn't impressed then.
I think
Did they have the big
I think they tasted better in the old
You
days.
sit
so.
down at the counter waiting for someone to serve you, and you can wait forever.
Back then, they hadn't taken all the salt and sugar out of everything, and they were still allowed to use artificial flavourings, and it all tasted great. Didn't all taste bland.
Yeah, and you can actually drink a milkshake because it wasn't on with a plastic. It was with a plastic straw, not paper.
That wasn't even that
Didn't
long
go all
ago.
goofy.
So they're just saying, McDonald's are saying that the strike, part of an international day of action for fast food workers apparently, is poised to flop because, and get this, just 13 McDonald's workers are currently signed up to the Bakers Union. This has fallen from 21 last year. And those
I didn't even know
workers,
there was a baker's union.
those workers just cover 6 restaurants. This is going to be the biggest turnout ever. They're going to have to pack in the momentum crowd to make it look like there's people there. The dialer strikers.
I should think the momentum are the hardcore of their customers, so it's...
It sounds like these are like 13 bad employees that McDonald's are desperate to get rid of, but they can't because they've been there for too long.
Okay, let's move on. Okay, so the next one is this one's about Lily Allen, the singer. I don't think she sings anymore, but she used to make pop songs anyway. So the Daily Express reports singer Lily Allen demanding Rule Britannia be banned. She apparently sparked fury by demanding the patriotic anthem Rule Britannia be banned just 24 hours after the country paid tribute to the fallen in Remembrance Day services. So, what do you think? Do you agree with the singer's controversial views, Jonathan? Do you think it should be banned?
No. But then again, I mean, my first thought is, who the hell is Lily Allen? But and this is obviously someone trying to revitalise their career.
Okay, boomer.
But, you know,
By the way, I'm not a boomer. I just skip it. I'm Gen X.
I think Jonathan's older than a boomer.
I'm just old.
I don't think he's older than a boomer.
How old are you?
62.
I think that still squeezes him into boomer. I don't know. I haven't got the list of years in front of me. I think it does though. So what do you think about it, Sam? Are you in Lily Allen's side on this one?
No one's on her side.
Well, some lefties are. I mean, they don't like Rule Britannia. Britannia rules the waves. Britons never, never shall be slaves. That's the bit that she was really upset about. She spoke to. I've got some details about it here. She spoke to her 1.3 million Instagram followers. She said, "I think we should not sing this song anymore." So, detailed opinion there. Obviously, valid criticism.
She's just a bit of a moron, really.
Oh, harsh. Do you think?
She's always been a lefty anyway. She's always said lefty stuff on the internet.
Yeah, she's always been a lefty. But it's these people that want us to ban old songs because some of the lyrics in them no longer fit the perfect woke world. It's tiresome, isn't it? Do you get tired of it?
Well, it's constantly changing as well, isn't it? So you start off... I mean, you can fall into all sorts of traps, and eventually I think you get to the stage where you just don't care because
The trouble is, if you don't fight against it, they keep doing it, and it just accumulates more and more stuff, and you just get to the point where nobody seems to feel they can do anything, say anything. It's getting worse and worse, don't you think it is?
It is getting worse, but the thing is that a lot of these people, in order to draw attention to themselves, are keen to be outraged and keen to be outraged about nothing in particular. So as soon as people stop using certain words, they'll move on to the next thing that they don't like.
I mean, obviously, the song comes from the fact that they said that the sun never set on the British Empire, and they said that we used to have the strongest navy in the world, and this is all historic stuff. It doesn't reflect on the modern world. It doesn't mean we want to conquer people now, but this is history. And the whole world was like this. I mean, back in the days of colonialism, people were trying to conquer places. That's what happened, wasn't it?
Well, I mean, at one stage it was likely to become the British national anthem, but
Jerusalem's better.
We've God Save the Queen, or God Save the King, as it was in its original version, obviously.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on, because you seem to have run out of things
Just
to say.
another thing out of interest, right?
Here
Does
we
it not
go.
anger people when you're in church, right, for Remembrance Day, and some people don't sing the hymns because maybe they don't feel religious or whatever, but if they don't sing the national anthem, don't you think that is really appalling?
It is, but it's usually because they don't know the words.
No, if the words are printed in a book.
So you're assuming everyone can read.
I do
And
think
there is a
it's...
strong correlation between those who don't know their own national anthem and those that can't read.
Yeah, I mean, there are a few exceptions. If somebody can't read it or doesn't know it well enough, but that people just trying to make a point by not singing it, it's pretty disgusting.
Why would they?
But
be,
then
why,
again,
why
then
would
again,
they be at a church service, for Remembrance Sunday? If
so-
they, I don't think it's that. Plus,
I think we all know some people who go to things to try and show that they're there, but then try and make silly points. I mean, we've all seen that. But the point you'd have to make though is that we did fight to preserve our freedom, and one of the freedoms is the freedom to do stupid stuff like that. I just hope that they recognise when they make silly point-scoring actions like that the reason they can do it is because people died to make them able to.
I'm not convinced that's the case. I think if you go on an average Sunday to church, you'll find there's people not singing.
I think they might just be bad singers.
Maybe it's
Well,
embarrassed.
Embarrassed,
Singing.
bad singers.
But you sing, and you're a bad singer.
Well, the other thing is they might not have their glasses with them because, I certainly can't read a hymn book if I haven't got my glasses with me.
Maybe you're being a bit too harsh on them, Sam.
No, I
Maybe
think
they
you
just
are.
can't read it.
I was just asking a question. I wasn't being an opinion.
No, but I mean, it's, I give them a buy on that one.
I'm interested in you guys' opinions on retweets because I was involved in a bit of a ding-dong with some people on Twitter recently.
Oh, I've had it myself as well.
Well, so this was about, they were saying, well, you've retweeted this and you shouldn't have done because it's wrong for some reason. And I think everybody understands, don't they, that retweets are not necessarily endorsements. Doesn't everyone know that?
I would actually disagree with you. I would have thought the only reason for retweeting something is because you think it's good.
People often retweet things to highlight them. In fact, one of the ways, if somebody says something really nasty to you, one of the ways you're recommended to deal with it is to retweet it so people can see what an idiot they're being.
And also, if you want loads of people to sort of swarm someone, if they're saying something really silly, you might retweet it to highlight it.
Yeah, okay, that's a fair one.
It's not something you've actually said, is it?
Those are the two extremes, aren't they? Really, wanting to highlight someone's stupid remarks.
But what sort of a person do you have to be to stalk somebody's Twitter just to see what they retweet so you can turn it into a big issue? I mean, you've got to be a complete dick, haven't you? Let's be honest. You've got to be.
On YouTube.
Oh, I am saying it right now. I've said it. I've said dick. Come on, we've used other worse words than that. I'm sure.
I think it's right. It is pathetic, really, and I think that sometimes it doesn't sound silly, but I think sometimes you can retweet something because you think meh, like I've often or like huh. I know it's hard emotions to see, but obviously through a computer. But what I mean is, I've often been scrolling through Twitter and sort of like felt kind of that's interesting, and literally like no more than that. I haven't agreed with it or disagreed with it. I've just literally thought, and so you sort of retweet. It's kind of like a bit of a lazy, like apathy kind of thing to do on Twitter. I think more than anything else.
I sometimes retweet things purely to annoy people. Sometimes I'll get a comment, I don't particularly agree with it, but I know it's going to annoy someone that irritates me, so I retweet it just to annoy them, and that's funny. I mean, come on, that's funny, I don't care who you are. Come on, let's move on.
And we're called Unapologetic because...
Exactly. Unapologetic, the UK podcast on politics, news and...
stuff.
Well done, Jonathan. Right, last item on the agenda. This is about the Remain Pact. Apparently it's in chaos because of Caroline Lucas of the Green Party. She says that the Lib Dems don't give an F, and obviously it's the full word, about Brexit. Am I allowed to say that on YouTube?
I don't know.
About Brexiteers. The Remain Alliance has suffered a serious setback after Caroline Lucas attacked the Lib Dems for their unforgivable Brexit stance. I just can't believe this story. Accusing Joe Swinson of not giving an F about the 17.4 million who voted for Brexit. This was all in an interview with the entertainment website joe.co.uk. Miss Lucas was asked about the Remain Alliance and the Lib Dems advertising spending, and Miss Lucas replied, "I just felt that this is taking party interest and national interest to such unforgivable degree. To be honest, if you wanted to send a message to 17.4 million people that you don't give an F what they have just said, why don't you just say so?" Now, following her surprising outburst, by the Green Party MP, viewers of the video were quick to criticise her. One Twitter user said, "If that's the case, Caroline, the Greens should break the Remain Pact with Plaid. How do you say that, Jonathan?
Plaid Cymru.
Thank you. And the Liberal Democrats, and stand in competition against Swinson." So, all's not happy in the Remain camp. What do you make of that, Jonathan?
I think what she's done is take a view as to what her party has as a long-term objective, and her party wasn't formed in order to get in or out of Europe. It was there to bring up green issues. Hence, it's called the Green
So why has
Party.
she joined the Remain Alliance then?
Who knows? But it sounds as if she somewhat regrets it. But I mean, she is correct in saying that. I mean, what she's trying to do is distance herself from being the Liberal Party as extreme Europhiles. She's saying, well, no, there's other issues.
But they are extreme. You don't get much more left extreme than the Greens.
Well, yes and no. I think they're extreme, but they're strongly left wing. But they're also they're of their various policies. I would have thought the green issues would probably comes out top rather than whether we're in or out of Europe.
So what do you make of it, Sam?
I think Jonathan is right there, actually. They are more about climate change than they are about Brexit. But they are left-wing, and I do think they would want to stay in.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just so hypocritical. I mean, she's regularly ranted against Brexit. She is, I would say, just as an extreme Remainer as the Lib Dems are. But I think what's happened is they've realised that the people benefiting from this deal are the Lib Dems, because the Greens weren't going to win anything. They win one seat that they always win because of her, and they were still going to win that anyway. The only people benefiting from this Remain alliance, really, as far between the Greens and the Lib Dems, are the Lib Dems, because that's a bit less of a vote being dragged away from them, from local Greens. They'll move to the Lib Dems. The only people it benefits are the Lib Dems, and I think Caroline Lucas has woken up and gone, hang on a minute, she's doing all this advertising, she's got loads of money, she's playing us for fools, and I think this is her little revenge.
But I don't know how credible Joe is as a news website, really. It's more of a fun site, isn't it?
Well, I didn't say they were credible, but this
just
is
give
what
me
she
an
said on
example. One of their articles they've got tonight is called First Dates Going Speed Dating with Dogs.
Well,
It
people want to date dogs.
It
I don't
says
know.
dating in this modern world is difficult. Modern dating is a minefield. Are they too high maintenance? Do they love food as much as you? Will your family like them? How do you know if you could live with them long term? The dates in questions don't have a single malevolent bone in their body, but the relationship could still turn rocky if they're not a perfect match. We are, of course, talking about dog dating.
Uh-huh.
While no felt fun, it can be just as heart-wrenching and rejection-filled as dating a human person when the breed just isn't right for you.
Okay,
Getting back to the Greens and the
No, I just want to pursue this a little bit before we get back to the Greens and the Liberals.
Oh, right, okay.
Are you saying? Clearly, this is a metaphor, isn't it? Because they are not genuinely talking about people dating dogs.
Basically what they're trying to say is it's the thing they're doing in with the Blue Cross. They're saying it's not uncommon for people to take on a dog without doing the research for the needs of the breeds,
Good.
which results in hundreds of dogs being given away each year for rehoming.
So they're
I think the point
they're
is
trying to home dogs well, but I'm a bit worried that some people will read this and they're a bit perverse.
Well,
and
there
they'll
are
take
a
it
lot of
completely
furries,
wrong.
aren't there, out there? And they're often lefties as well.
I don't think there's a lot of furries.
Although now I've said that, they're going to kill me.
That's
because
right, the furries-
Gary always says
furry
to me,
uprising.
don't troll furries. If you troll furries on the internet, they can absolutely destroy you.
The furry uprising's coming after you.
You
It's
joke!
worse than momentum. You're in deep trouble.
You think
This
I'm
would be like the Twitter store all over again.
You think I am joking, but there is a rule on Discord that you do not argue with the furries because that all happens and they will just insta-ban you from everything.
Right.
Clearly out of touch with the internet.
No, I think you're right. I certainly wouldn't mess with anyone who dresses as an animal. You don't know what they're going to do. So, anyway, John, what were you saying, John?
Well, we're sort of focusing on the Greens, which, and saying they're pretty much an irrelevance. But let's go a bit further. The Liberals, the BBC has decided that they're an irrelevance, in as much as they won't be in any televised debate, as I understand it.
Yeah.
And that's not entirely unreasonable. I mean, at the last election, they got 12 MPs, and so why would, which is the same as the DUP. I mean, if the Liberals should be there, certainly the DUP should be, which would be interesting. But looking at the Liberals generally, because they always crack themselves up to be a national party. If you look at the House of Commons, they've got 21 MPs. Only 12 of those were elected. All the rest have been
Switched over from everyone else.
have come from other parties and are almost,
United colours of Liberal Democrats.
and are almost certain to lose their seats
They are
in
the
the next election.
They are the Benetton of Parliament.
Yeah, my prediction is the
Benetton?
Liberals will start this election with 21
Clothing
MPs.
brand.
Benetton?
Yeah, you remember the United Colours of Benetton
Clearly, this is one of those things that Sam doesn't remember.
Yeah. But anyway, the House of Commons, as I say, my prediction is that they'll start this election with 21 MPs, and by the time the election is over, they'll be back to the 12 they had originally.
Well, let's hope so. I mean, some polls have them as actually winning in some seats if enough of the left vote, if the Remain vote goes to them. So perhaps they'll pick up some seats.
Here's a statistic to roll round your head. Bear in mind, London is a very Brexit area.
It certainly is.
It is. London Assembly, 1 out of 25 is Liberal.
Yeah, but that was a different time.
Okay, let's go to the Scottish Parliament, where they've always reckoned...
The argument is that this is a Brexit election, and so if it's a Brexit election, what if all the Remainers go to the main Remain party, which is Lib Dems? And if that were to happen, there could be some surprises.
It is, but it presupposes that people are going to put the Brexit issue bigger than other stuff. And putting Jeremy Corbyn in by the back route, it's going to horrify people. But, I mean, the Liberals, everyone treats them as a national party, and yet Scottish Parliament, 5 out of 129.
How many?
5 out of 125.
5!
Welsh Assembly, 1 out of 60.
That's one, everyone.
Local government, everybody reckons that they're hugely successful in local government. Just over 2,500 Liberal councillors out of a total of 20,000.
What's the collective?
12.5%.
What is the collective noun for Liberal councillors? Anyone know?
They've never been seen in double numbers. But of the elected mayors, only 2 out of 25 Liberal. At the end of the day, the Liberals are a pretty ineffective party, and are rapidly heading towards disappearing entirely.
I've got a feeling you're not right, Jonathan, but I hope you are. This is one that I hope you are right on, because that would be a lovely outcome, wouldn't it? But I've got a feeling that Labour are the ones going to get a bit of a
The thing is with the Lib Dems, they're such know-it-alls. I think they're so much cleverer than everyone, they're so much better at everything than everyone.
Yeah, I've noticed that too. Not all of them, but some of them certainly do. But the thing is, of course, that they get to that because they've come up often through the same routes, through academia or whatever, and it gives them this idea of some sort of superiority, which I don't think most people would agree with, having met them. Their policies don't work in action, do they? You don't even know what their policies are, do you?
Well,
that's why you're so stumped.
And who does? Definitely, I know that one of their policies, time gone by, was free, student grants to be re-established and do away with fees.
Yeah.
They really kept that one.
Votes for prisoners, don't forget that one. Votes for prisoners, that was popular.
And don't forget Nick Clegg saying it's time for a referendum on Europe.
How did that work out? Anyway, guys.
Just while you're there, hands up anyone who can remember Tim Farron.
Well, remember, we can't, look, this is a recorded medium. Putting your hands up is not something that our audience
Well, they can do
see.
it out there. They can do it out there.
Anyway, guys, I think we've waffled on for enough tonight. We've waffled on for enough tonight.
And also, Jonathan just wants to mention something about the last podcast where he said he didn't like musicals. He's found a musical he does like.
Yeah, I do. I like Zulu.
Zulu is not a musical.
It is. They sing Men of Harlech in it. It's a musical.
In that case, Lord of the Rings is a musical.
Do
they sing in that?
Yeah, I'm sure they do. There's like that funny poem song, isn't there? The Elves
I've never
do or
seen
something.
it.
In which case, that's probably
You've never seen Lord of the Rings.
Who wants to sit there for 3 hours watching some people walk? It's like a walking movie.
Just
It's-
walk.
it's-
3 hours of walking.
I can say it's a road movie without the wheels.
Exactly.
They're on the road in most cases.
Yeah. It's just
Anyway, guys, we're pretty much done for tonight.
Thelma and Louise done in New Zealand,
Oh, I've lost control of this completely. We've been Unapologetic, the UK podcast on politics, news and stuff from a right of centre viewpoint. Say good night, Sam.
Good night.
Good night from me, and say good night, Jonathan.
Good night.
Talk to you soon.